Hello and welcome to the Smoke and Burn Podcast. I'm Casey Gresseth, and I'm here with two guys that I've known for a long time, Michael Paul and Caleb Williams, both Primico, Michigan guys, a couple of the top reps in the country. What's going on?
What's happening?
Hey, Casey, thanks for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the three of us all went through grade school and high school together.
Got some great pictures still. That's what I got my phone to do, was to find a picture of you.
Oh, God. I don't want to see it.
I wouldn't mind seeing it.
I almost texted it to you when I found it, too.
It's like, it sounds like, oh, well, that's kind of cool. You guys went to the same school and stuff. But you have to understand, like, our school, at the most, had 50 people. And it was kindergarten through 12th grade.
Yeah.
So we came from this very specific, weird little environment. And we all ended up at BG.
Perfect.
So let's kind of start off, like, maybe share, sort of your career story, how you ended up with BG. Mike, you want to start us off?
Yeah. So I was actually, I was an assistant manager at Discount Tire for years. I went away to Iraq for a year, and when I was...
Like on vacation?
Exactly right. Yeah, it was. That's when you go to Fowler Christian School. That's a typical destination spot's Iraq.
Right.
So
Senior trip.
That's what it was. Yep. So I was with the Army. I went over there for a year just to fix helicopters, and that one company, G185th. And so getting home, I had to find something to take care of a family, and I was thinking Discount Tire is probably not going to do it, being assistant manager there. So I was going to either fix helicopters on the civilian side or maybe do something with computers. Then I get a phone call from Casey's dad, who I went to church with, and actually for a little bit was my youth leader at First Baptist Church there. And so he said, "Hey, I want to interview you for a job." And I said, "Yeah, I think I'm good. It's okay." He said, "Just have a seat, see what we can offer you." And so he made me an offer, and he said, "If you do okay, we'll move you from salary right to commission." And yeah, that was in 2005. That was, I think, April 10th of 2005. So sneaking up on 15 years here. So next April.
And so your territory is kind of the Ann Arbor area.
It's grown a little bit, but yeah, when I launched, it was Ann Arbor, and then that's when Andre left. I got Lenawee County too, and then picked up Monroe, and then now a sliver of Wayne County as well. So yeah, kind of all southeast Michigan.
So Andre,
You're smirking.
the guy
this
that
is going to go south.
Andre the Giant?
Andre, the guy that he replaced,
down.
was most famous for not wearing deodorant.
He was most famous for $2 bills. He was second most famous for not wearing deodorant.
At least it wasn't his defining characteristic. He had those dollar bills to fall back on.
That's right. And then I think the third was a heavy accent. But I mean, it was overshadowed by the lack of deodorant, though.
Right.
And Andre, if you're hearing this, you know it's true.
Sorry, dude, but you earned it.
That's right.
you smell bad. You smell bad, bro. So it's okay. How long has it been since you've worked on a helicopter?
Oh, well, I think February of 2005 is when we actually left Iraq. So I think up to when we left. So yeah, sneaking up on 15 years.
So like
two months before I came to work for BG.
Like today, right at this point in time, would you put your children in a helicopter that you worked on?
If I did it recently, yes. Not when I worked on 15 years ago.
Would you put 44K in the helicopter?
Actually, they ran on JP8. Yes, I would.
That's a weird question that we probably get at some point at BG. That'll be a great question for Michael.
No need to call BG. We just answered it.
Yeah. Go ahead. Dump it in.
So that's right. Just make sure you get the right treat ratio.
Don't worry about it. Don't get bogged down in the specifics. Make the sale.
That's right. Which is a lot of cans.
Which is kind of a Caleb Williams philosophy. Caleb, you're how did you come to be with BG?
Well, so I was 20 and was taking a little break from college. Had just gotten married, had a baby on the way, and decided I needed a real job. So I was talking to Darren Gresseth, and he said, "Hey, I've got a real job for you." And that was my start. I got to work with Merle Gresseth for my first few years with BG.
And Merle is my grandfather, and he was one of the top reps in the country for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And Caleb, you kind of came on as like a support guy for him, doing deliveries and things like that. and then sort of slowly transitioned into a sales role?
Yeah, so my transition was about 3 to 4 years with Merle, and we had a lot of fun. When Merle retired, then I had a chance to step into a sales job and actually work with you. Was it?
Well, about 2.5 years, I think.
So yeah, you and I were a team. I feel like I did all the work.
Well, yeah, it worked out really good for me.
No.
I worked hard at avoiding the work.
But we had a lot of fun, and we won't talk about our driving.
Yeah, so that's what Caleb and I were most famous for. We're both horrific drivers. I would say that I'm better than Caleb, but it's a pretty close contest.
Between the two of us, which one of us is backed into a subway sign?
Who's driven down the wrong direction on a road more times?
I'm a star,
All right.
and I'm left out of this equation. I mean, I'm thankful, but I can't believe you haven't brought up any of my faux pas. It's awesome.
They put Caleb and I together because we kind of had like coinciding strengths. Like, I had been doing a lot of the training and stuff. I was really bad at just being a good sales rep. Like, the day-to-day, running a route and stuff like that. Like, I could talk them into it. It was just like, from there I started to lose interest. Caleb was like this. He learned from Merle, who's like the master of, building an account from within, structuring this store to make them great at selling BG. So they kind of put us together and they're like, you guys just sort of try to learn from each other.
Yeah, and whatever you do, don't screw it up.
Right? Merle gave us a lot of rope.
We were very afraid of screwing it up for the first couple of years, but we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot from each other, and it kind of all took off from there. So
yeah, we did. Great working together. And, I talked in the last episode kind of about having, as a BG guy, you kind of have like a group of people that when you have an idea or you have a bad day or a really good day or whatever, there's always like a couple of people that you think of to call and just kind of unload on them, and Caleb and I kind of do that with each other. We call each other probably once every couple of weeks and just like, hey, what's been going on, man? Oh, you wouldn't believe this horrible demo that I had, or man, I got this new account, and so we've worked together pretty closely for a lot of years. So yeah, it's been fun. A lot of weird demo stories and things like that.
a lot of great demo stories. A lot of demos gone wrong.
Oh man, we have messed
Can I
up.
tell the story about the coolant demo?
Yes.
So we had just gotten a new Chevy dealership that we had landed, and we're teaching the technicians how to use the equipment. And we've got what was it? Do you remember what car that was?
Oh,
It
it was like a first gen Cobalt or something like that.
The thing was a piece of crap. And we had the CT2 hooked up to it, and for whatever reason, we could not get any flow.
I think the thing would not take full pressure from the machine, and we didn't know at the time that you use the barrel selector to kind of regulate the pressure to keep things moving. So we'd hook it up one way, and then it wouldn't work. And so we'd take it
remember
apart,
this
hook it up
story,
another
too.
way, wouldn't work. And the whole time we've got these techs that are supposed to be watching. It's been 45 minutes since we've done anything useful. Everybody's losing interest. It's first day with BG. It was just getting ugly.
Yeah, the mood was going south very quick, and so I'm trying to get these guys, corral them. Casey's trying to figure out what's going on with this car, and so I'm talking to the guys, trying to entertain them a little bit, and I look over and I see Casey just open the ball valve on the loop for the CT2, and of course, the coolant goes from the new jug to the used jug. And I'm just talking to these guys, keeping their attention, and Casey closes the ball valve. And he goes, oh, look, there it goes.
Well, that about does it. Fixed it.
That's probably the worst thing we ever did. But
If it's a smoke and burn demo, you can drop the test tube. If it's a vehicle demo, there's just no good way to bail. when you don't know what to do.
That's life coaching right there. Drop the test tube. I never thought of that one.
Yeah.
Well, the penny looks the same as drop the test tube.
Yeah,
oh,
it's good.
Shucks.
It's good financial advice too. Bankruptcy is nature's dropping the test tube. Just bail out. So yeah, we've all kind of worked together for a lot of years, covered a lot of similar areas and stuff like that. And Kayla, I'm sorry, I kind of missed you, but your territory now, like.
Yeah, so Livingston, Oakland County is mainly my territory. I work with 42 car dealerships. It's a lot of fun. We're growing like crazy. Big stuff coming. So,
man, maybe you guys can share a little just to kind of give people listening an idea. Maybe you could share a little bit about what you went through with how you guys kind of had to really step up to the plate this year.
Yeah, Mike, you could probably speak to that.
Yeah, that was a big setback at the start of the year. I mean, that was an instant $170,000 in sales gone to launch the year.
Yeah, this is a group, and it's a great kind of cautionary example for, if you're new to BG or if you've been at it a couple of years and you have, a group of stores that represents a huge portion of your sales. We had 20 plus year relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, they were 7-8% of my sales anyway. And this is a group that, I mean, you can never, I think, say you did everything right, but we did maybe as much as you can. We did it right with them. We really thought we were pretty secure in the account, and it happened pretty fast. I'll say this, when we met with, so they've got a couple different fixed directors, and we met with one of them about a month and a half ago now, I think it was, and he said, one of the things about BG, he said, there's, of course, product, you can't look past the quality of the product, but he said nobody's ever formed such real relationships and connections with our people like BG. I mean, that's no other outside partner. I mean, not just maintenance, but period. Which that was a neat accolade to get. That felt good.
Absolutely. And let's pivot back to that in a second. But so you said how much you lost in sales right off the bat this year?
It was about $170,000.
$170,000.
Yeah, right off the bat.
Significant.
Yeah, that was a pretty demoralizing blow. So.
And maybe kind of share with the guys like where you're going to end up on that scale.
So I just got the latest quota numbers actually for our distributorship today, and so at the close of kind of the middle of the period for us, I'm about $10,000 over where I need to be for quota for the year. So we've caught up.
That is awesome.
So and it's been there's a lot of factors. It's changing the way I do business. It's a couple of phenomenal new accounts. I picked up, which actually poached from a fellow salesman. Whatever. That's what I do. That's who I am as a person. It's out there now.
Only the strong survive.
What did he say?
Right.
You eat what you kill. That's what Jim said.
Eat what you kill.
And then actually I got to give some credit to Caleb too. He has a great relationship with one of his Honda dealerships. Who's got a great relationship with one of the service manager of my Honda dealership. And Caleb helped me get another account down in Ann Arbor. So a couple of new accounts helped offset it. And then I brought Caleb's younger brother Josh on also full time. He helped me last year just product support. But now he's full-time logistics, he's product, he's rings and spiffs, and he's taken a lot off my plate for the logistics side. He's helping form great relationships, and it frees up a ton of my time. So it's demos, it's trainings, it's relationship building. So that's been a tremendous change in my business too. It's just what my time is spent on now. So it's not cans on shelves and tokens in bags. And there's an element of risk in doing that too, because you're enlisting somebody else to manage some key relationship. I mean, that's a key relationship, and that's something that I actually watched Caleb bring him on with his territory, and he kind of proved himself in Caleb's territory, and so I had a lot of confidence moving him over to my territory. Josh does a phenomenal job. So
Yeah, he is.
he manages the relationships with people. Now I don't know a lot of the people now that he, as far as the tech side now, you can't manage it all, but he does such a good job with that though, and so I can concentrate more higher up, and so.
Well, that's great. Congratulations, man. That's awesome work to start out. $170,000 in the hole, right on the first day of the new year, and then to, not only offset that, but then to still hit your quota and stuff like that. I mean, pretty commendable. Great work.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's exciting, and I'll tell you what, this is a very emotional business, and when sales are down, I'm telling you, it's I feel it. I mean, my
it
spirits
really
get
is a
down
wake-up call when you kind of find out who you are as a rep when you start out in the hole like that, when you take a big shot.
I think Sean Smith gave me a lot of optimism because Sean lost literally half of his territory. I mean, several years back now, but that's a great story. I mean, he buckled down and he grew back, and I mean, EPR sales. He's still kind of he's a hero to me. That's a big deal. But
Absolutely. He's with Primico?
yeah,
Right?
yeah, he's Inc. Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Awesome. So, kind of, pivoting back for a second, you mentioned the strength of relationships that you guys formed in it. And I know this is a critical part of both of your guys' philosophy on how to be a good sales rep. Can you share a little bit on what, a good relationship looks like to you guys? Like, is that, I know it's more than just like, hey, I know this guy's kids' names, and, I know that he likes to go on his boat on the weekends.
Yeah, I think a good relationship, ultimately, it comes down to trust. It's something that takes a lot of time to build, and you have to be very intentional about it. Mm-hmm. But when your customer starts to see that you genuinely care about him and his business, all the pieces start to fall into place. When you're willing to go the extra mile for your customer, be inconvenienced for your customer, they begin to trust you. And at that point, when you're ready to talk about BG and you start bringing ideas to the table, you have their attention.
So being, inconvenienced by your customer, what can you think of, like a recent example that might be a good way of?
Yeah, I think anybody who's worked with BG long enough knows those those phone calls you get on a Friday afternoon. It's 5 o'clock and you're thinking about wrapping it up for the day, and you get that phone call that
I've been home for hours by then.
Hey, our trans machine's broke, and we're open tomorrow. How are you going to help us? And so you drive 45 minutes across town and you hustle to get there before they close.
Away from home, wrong direction.
Yep, so you can fix it. And it's those kind of things, Hey, we're out of product and it's Saturday morning, and you find a way to take care of them. It's real life, but your customers never forget it when you do those things.
You do it one time, and you create a perception. I think Caleb and I were having a conversation about that. But I had a Ford dealership where the owner sold, his sons are taking over, and one of their ideas was just to get rid of maintenance chemistry, bring in the rotunda equipment, and we'd make so much more money. And the service and parts manager shut it down very hard. That was. I'm going to ask about that in a minute. Anyway, and so they fought hard, but one of the things the parts manager said, though, he said, listen, when there's a product shortage, we're missing a fitting, a machine issue, I don't care if Mike's out of state. I mean, he's there in 40 minutes. And I mean, that's an exaggeration, but that's their perception, though. I mean, boy, I'm sure not that quick, but they think I am, though. They think Josh is. And they said, we can't do business the way we do it without BG, just because they're so supportive. The response time's immediate. They care about our business. So, yeah, things like that, it goes a long way.
Well, and I think like talking about being inconvenienced by your customer, or a chance to build a relationship. Sometimes it's easy. I think it's easy for a lot of guys to wrap their head around, like, well, they can't sell services if a machine goes down, so I got to get over there. Okay, that's a great example. It's an easy example, though. Like, because I know that there's been times where the both of you guys have gotten that call on Friday afternoon, but it was one of your technicians at one of your stores saying, hey, man, can you come by and buy chips and caps? I need some drinking money for the weekend. And it is so easy to just be like, oh, man, I'm sorry. I'm already on the other side of town. I'll hit you up on Monday. And I know both of you guys have, like, dropped what you're doing just to go, because it's not just like, this is a nice thing to do for somebody. Yeah. Right? It's like a chance to make an impact on that person. They understand, like, wow, this guy really didn't have to do that, and he went the extra mile just to keep me happy.
That's what Caleb's talking about when he said these people, they believe. And we do. I mean, there's genuine connections, but we care about them, and that's a great way to show them. Hey, I mean, this is just a personal thing for you. This isn't your business. This isn't equipment that we need for services. This is you getting some walking around money for the weekend. Hey, I'm looking out for you, man. I mean, that has a big impact.
I think another part of it is you have to earn the right to speak into their business.
Ooh, that's a good one.
It's really easy to fall into the trap as a BG rep where you feel like, man, I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to tell them about the revenue they're missing out on MOA and 44K or whatever it is. Hey, I've got this great business plan, and who am I to come in and tell them what they need to do in their business or what they're doing wrong? The relationship's the key, because if I build that relationship, if they trust me, if they know that I care about their business more than just selfishly, obviously they know I want to sell more BG, but when you start to build that trust, it makes it very easy to have those conversations and talk to them and give them ideas. Part of it is looking out for more than just your BG interest. You start, if you can find ways to help them grow their business, maybe things that have nothing to do with BG, that can go a really long ways. Helping them sell more brake jobs or more cabin air filters, fill in the blanks.
That's a great point too, that we don't often hear about, because all of us have been in a training seminar or something like that where they've said, you are a business consultant and you need to go in there and be a business consultant to that guy. And so you walk in with a revenue report and tell them everything that they're doing wrong, and then just wonder why they don't get excited, or maybe they're kind of like blow you off, or they don't want to spare time for you or anything like that. Earning their trust and earning the right to have a say in what they do, to make those recommendations to them. Because I think that's spot on. I've never really thought about it in that way, but who are you to tell me how to run my business?
Once you have that relationship, though, it's never the same. You're able to do that. You have that right, and that's when you really start to see growth in an account. Whether it's with that, it's not just one person either. Especially in a car dealership, it's not just having that relationship with a service manager. It's all of the key players. It might be a technician, it might be a parts guy, but it just takes a lot of time and a lot of just very deliberate effort to make that happen.
Yeah, I know there's times when especially a store that you're not doing good in, the temptation is to focus on the service manager, the main advisor, maybe a couple of techs in the back, and it's sometimes hard to justify like spending an hour in there talking to the other techs, or maybe the advisor that doesn't really ever seem to give you the time of day and stuff. So like you're kind of the philosophy, you got to build a relationship with everybody. Everybody needs to know who you are.
Yeah, to a degree. I mean, you have to know who your decision makers are. You have to know who your key players are. But you want to create this fan club at your accounts where you just want to be a bright spot in people's day. They love seeing you come in the door. You kind of get to become part of the family, and even if it's a porter or a parts counter guy, you just want to be a breath of fresh air to everybody. And you never know who's going to be helpful to you in your business down the road either.
I was going to make a comment about that, actually. Yeah.
I have lube techs that are master techs now, and I've had young advisors who are now service managers, and so you start to build those relationships. You never know where they're going to go.
So you blow off a guy because he's an annoying lube tech. Down the road, you may regret doing that.
You might.
It's funny because Mike's customers made a lot of groaning noises when we went in there the other day. It's a lot of, oh, God.
Sounds right. As long as you're buying, I don't care.
There's another thing.
If I get your money, I win.
Casey, you were talking about accounts that don't do well, and we all have them. Just those accounts that have no interest in growing, and the temptation, those are the ones that take a lot of self-discipline, because the temptation is just to blow them off. They'll call me when they need something. And if you're not in those accounts every couple of weeks, spending time look, you can't put all of your time and energy into training and demoing places that aren't interested in growing, but
Right.
you have to be there. You've got to be a part of what they're doing, or you'll never have the opportunity to grow. Every account is just
Well,
one
it could be a
little
risk
change.
too. I mean, if you don't.
Sure, you might lose them, but every account's just one small change away from being an account that's ready to grow. Maybe it's a new advisor, a new tech comes in.
Service
Maybe
manager.
the owner decides he wants to start making money in service. You never know what's going to happen, so you have to be there to be able to take advantage of it.
It's funny because I could think of several situations in our territory where we had an account that just sucked. Just the worst part of your week was going in there, and all of a sudden they got a new service advisor. And boom, this place is pumping.
Hey, do you remember the time we did that training at a
Nope.
Chevy store? So we're going to train advisors. Casey and I were getting ready to train them together, and we hadn't really prepped for the meeting, which is not good. But so we're kind of looking at each other, and we're talking about what we're going to do. The advisors come in, and so Casey kicks off the meeting. Just pause. He goes, "Well, you guys really suck at selling fuel." It was actually, that training ended up being really good, but
Sometimes you got to hit them between the eyes. Sometimes that goes really wrong.
yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend that one for an opening line, but
Yeah,
It worked
if you're
out.
taking notes, cross that one out.
Some people can get away with it though. I've watched Steve do it.
Does happen. So I think on the subject of relationships, what I've found over the years working with reps is that, there's a lot of guys out there that have good relationships in their accounts. For some guys it goes the other way though. It's these are my buddies, and I feel weird twisting their arm trying to get them to change their ways and sell more BG.
Merle had a quote about that. He would say, "Friends will let you starve," and it kind of went.
It's just
Yeah, Merle said it a lot. Yep.
that's a great point, though. You have to, if you don't ever use your relationships and leverage them to sell BG, then they're not doing any good.
I mean, they're real, genuine connections, but if that's all it is, you're not running a business. I mean, they're a stepping stone. If you have that real connection, now they're receptive, and now it's time where we begin to sell and coach.
And here's the great part: when we start selling and coaching them on how to improve their maintenance business, we're doing them a favor. And I think
Sure.
that's the part we have to offer, and you can't forget, hey, we have a lot to bring to the table for their business. So it's selfish, but it's a relationship that's good for everybody.
I've sometimes worded it as our agenda is the best thing that could happen to them.
Mm-hmm.
They just might not know it yet.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you can have a lot of great friends in an account, you can be their buddy, everybody likes you. But if you're not helping them grow their preventative maintenance business, you're a nice guy, but what value are you to them,
Well, how replaceable are you? I mean, being liked is one thing, but if you're not a key part of their business, if you're not integral, you're dispensable. It's like, I like you a lot,
Absolutely.
Mike, but you're not making me any money. This guy's going to make me some money. We're still friends, but this is business.
100%. And that's I feel like we've taken a lot of competitor accounts on that along those same lines.
Yeah.
Wow, I've been with Gary for 2 decades. We go way back. We go camping twice a year together. Yeah, but is Gary helping you grow your revenue? Is Gary helping you increase your shop efficiency?
Let me see the revenue report Gary gives you every month, and we'll compare it to some other Ford dealers. Oh, Gary doesn't do that for me. Oh, really? That's a surprise.
Blows. Absolutely. I mean, I think that's a great philosophy on it, though. Don't be a friend that lets your friends starve.
By Casey Gress.
By me, yeah. It's another great quote I've put my name on. Somebody else's. So,
You modify it just a little bit so it doesn't make any sense, and then you put your name on it, though.
right.
So that's
No libel suits coming against me.
no. Your grandpa's not going to sue you. You're good.
So we're going into the new year. I mean, you guys go by calendar year, so you're kind of finishing up the year still. But looking forward into the next 6 months, 12 months. Like what's your focus? Where do you see your growth for this year coming from?
Well, a lot of specifically converting every dealership I've got to Platinum. I'm probably 50% done now. Every shop I've converted, it's of course been increasing that sales, which is awesome, but bringing a new focus on fuel, putting in a service that the techs see is more efficient because it is, and also easier to do, has boosted fuel sales in almost every account I put it in. So getting the final conversion done, the philosophy that I'm trying to promote to every tech, the kind of the perspective on maintenance I want them to all sell from is, I love my customers, therefore I coach and train them how to own and take care of a car. I mean, that's the foundation of the maintenance sale. This is how we love our customers. This is how we really are the coach and the consultant to them. If we're not doing this, we're just writers. So those are some of the small boots in the ground stuff.
So like the accounts that you're converting to Platinum, like what are most of them using now?
2901, or old 2112 kit, but yeah, 2901.
So basically an old 206, 210, 44K.
Yes. Yep. And then, of course, new business, got a couple of accounts that I'm going after, and then it sounds like we might be having some success with too, so I'm not banking on that, but it's like that's a pretty good possibility too, though.
You got plenty of wood to knock on if you want.
That's right. And also just some of the training we're doing this week, advanced fixed ops consulting. I mean, I'm excited to get that integrated and just become more of a partner that my dealerships rely on to grow their business. I mean, to be a real consultant and a coach. I mean, beyond the scope of just the maintenance product. Let's look at some real metrics that you care about, talk about ways to improve them. So,
Mike touched on some great stuff. The oil change business, too, is going to be a big one for me.
yes.
Just there is so much revenue for dealerships in their lube rack, in their quick lane, whatever, and we have all the tools to help them capitalize on that. If you think just from the standpoint of BG sales, we make so much money on an oil change, or have the potential to, with MOA, ethanol, EPR. There's more money for us in that and more potential. I can sell 5 ethanol kits before I ever have a chance to sell a coolant flush. Maybe more than that, right?
100%.
So
Yeah.
as I look into my business, ethanol has become a huge part of what I do. But there's more to get. There's one of the sales reps down in the Atlanta market. I think he's going to sell 30 or 40,000 ethanol kits this year.
So not dollars, 30 or 40,000 ethanol kits.
Yes,
Holy
don't quote me on that,
balls.
but it's
That's
between
crazy.
it's definitely over 20. It's an incredible amount.
Jeez, that's insane. So what do you say to the sales rep who says, "Well, I went and I did the ethanol demo. They all liked it. And they got it on the shelf. I made them a good, better, best menu, but just nobody's selling."
Why did you use a southern accent?
It's just a derogatory thing I do. I use it to communicate apathy and maybe lack of education.
It worked for Hillary Clinton.
No offense
That's
to our
funny.
Southern brothers. We're just messing around.
So what do you say? What was the question again?
Well, I did the demo, and I put the kits on the shelf, and I made them a good, better, best menu. Is that more palatable for you?
Perfect.
I don't want to trigger
That's
Mike.
a great Minnesota. Mike, come back. You don't have to be so mad.
That's right.
He's just face turning red right now.
You just called me Trigger Mike. I love that. So that's Casey's nickname for me. If you didn't know, it's Trigger
So-
Mike. So thank you.
There's a lot. Have you trained the advisors? Have you trained doing the demo is a part of it, but you have to connect all the dots. Have you shown them the money they can make? Do you have an incentive program?
How about a
Because-
simple word track? Just a simple word track
A
to
word
follow.
track's a big one.
You
Here's
got
how
one
you-
on the top of your head?
Ooh,
Yeah, of course.
let's hear
Of
it.
course I do. I get put in the spot occasionally with customers.
This is called stalling.
Yeah, he's definitely stalling.
Trigger Mike's the king. Yeah, well, I guess I would just.
Here, do you want me to do it?
I feel fairly confident. So
Do you want me to do it? Okay.
when I'm done, I want you to. Yeah. So. Yeah.
Still stalling.
All right. But Mr. Cuss, we also recommend twice a year you treat your fuel system for ethanol moisture. Just stop corrosion, prevent bad tank of gas, keep check engine lights off. It's an extra $20. You want us to add it to your service today. Or would you like us to go and get it taken care of while it's in the shop?
Well, I only use premium fuel. I only buy the good stuff. So, I mean, I shouldn't have a problem.
You're golden. You're exempt. Don't worry about it. No, still has 10% ethanol in it. You can't. Every gallon of gas you buy has got ethanol in it.
So that was pretty good.
I'd give him
If your
a
advisor
C
has
plus
30
on
seconds
that.
to think it over before they ask, that'll work.
That's why you give them a word track on paper.
All right. How about this? So, Casey, one thing we do recommend when you're here for your oil change today is that we treat your fuel system. What it's going to do, it's going to help. It's just going to help keep your fuel economy and performance where it should be.
I don't want to alienate anybody at the table, but that was maybe the best.
Just short and sweet.
I feel alienated now.
You can really keep it simple. It doesn't have to be this long pitch talking about. You have to be ready to answer questions, but we really don't need to get into into the weeds with ethanol and corrosion and all that stuff. It's just giving them just a simple, quick value pitch. If you ask everybody, people are going to say yes.
Absolutely.
It's just
And I'm kind of of the opinion nowadays, especially that like the simpler the word track, the more likely it is to succeed.
I agree. See, that was my simple word track, though. I go way more technical than that. So that's
Just so verbose. That's what it is.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm a big fan of brevity as well. That is my brief pitch, but I agree, though. In this, kind of back a little bit, too. I'll pick on them in a fun way, but one of the big areas of focus was just chemistry and product, and the advisors would spew so much information on a customer that what you're saying is 100% right. They just get lost with it. I mean, you overwhelm them, it's counterproductive. But yeah, very simple and brief. Let them back into it and ask questions. Great, we'll answer all your questions. I mean, it's good for them to have the knowledge, but that's not part of the pitch, though. I agree.
Right.
Yep,
There's Andy Baldessari has a great saying on it, and I'm going to butcher it, but there's a big difference between education and training, right? They're both important, but education is just like, here's a bunch of information. Training is like, here's how you take all of that stuff and put it into a tight little package that you can use.
Here's the application. Here's the real-world application.
Right. They need to understand the bigger picture and all the things that it does and stuff.
It's a great distinction.
They need to understand, like, you don't have to address that stuff with the customer, Just keep it short and simple.
Mm-hmm.
So, that makes sense. So ethanol is going to be a big focus of yours this year.
Ethanol, all oil change products. Ethanol, MOA, EPR, 44K. I think that's going to be a huge push for our distributorship. So I have to say that.
Well, you scored the bonus points. I think.
Perfect. No, as I look into my business and I see the opportunity, it's just incredibly huge. I've had big growth in that area over the last couple of years, but there's so much more to get.
Right. Oh, and I think, so we were touching on, like, what do you do with the account that you've, quote-unquote, done everything with? So you said, like...
Hey, I got to say one more thing about...
It's kind of my show, but okay.
Well, fine.
You invited.
I can leave.
You invited us. It's not too early to shut this thing down, Casey.
Selfishly, from the standpoint of just being a BG rep, I make as much money on a can of 44K almost as I do a trans kit. It's almost as big of a sale. So I can sell a whole bunch of 44Ks or MOA EPR kits before I ever have a chance to sell that coolant flush or that transmission service, just from a volume standpoint.
Right. And I think you guys would agree, like, sell them both, but where's your focus?
Right.
Why are you, why is your focus not on the volume? where's the volume at? It's with those oil change products. It's with fuel service. So, I mean,
and that's where the
a great
dealerships
point.
are losing money too. I just had a conversation with one of my good dealer groups last week, and we were talking about how much money, what profit do you guys make on an oil change? And it was less than $3 was the answer.
Oh man!
So
Most popular service. They
yeah,
write them up all day, every day.
by the thousands each month. So if we can take that oil change and put another $10 or $15 on the net, that's a big deal.
Well, I think another thing that Mike touched on there with the platinum service, like you were kind of talking about it from the standpoint of, guys, this is so convenient to do now. I think a lot of guys are probably looking at platinum service and they're saying, well, it's a lot more expensive than the kit that I'm currently, a 2902 or whatever it is I'm currently using. I mean, how do you address that concern with your stores, or do you?
So really, it hasn't been a big factor at all. I mean, the difference isn't that significant, but I guess the real excitement about it is it works. So we could sell 2901. It does an okay job, but it's not geared towards direct inject. It's port inject. So for the additional $20, whatever the difference in the service is, we're giving a customer a complete service. So I mean, the value really supports the increased costs. And when you shine a spotlight on it, whether it's the advisors, the techs across the dealership, I mean, they see that they recognize the need for it, they see the effectiveness of it, and it becomes a pretty easy sale. From the technician standpoint, too, it's an easy hour. They're more apt to recommend it. Even if the price is high, if the tech's going to recommend it, it'll sell. I mean, if it's the labor's priced correctly, it'll sell. I mean, you can raise the price as long as someone's going to nudge it because they see the profit in it, the greedy side of them. Yeah, you don't have to worry about it not moving in a dealership. It'll take off.
Yeah, you can kind of ride the wave of the momentum you've got in the shop. So that being said, how important to you guys? I mean, it's really easy for us to go into a store and just focus on advisor training. How important are the technicians to your guys' growth strategy?
It's critical.
Yeah. In a lot of dealerships, and I can think of many examples. I mean, in Mike's perfect world, this is all mileage-driven maintenance. The advisor advises when they coach a customer to follow the schedule of maintenance. And they're the primary driver, the techs are the second line of defense. In the real world, though, you find the techs are the liquid courage for the advisors. I mean, they'll sell.
That's a great way of putting it.
They'll sell, I mean, they're like their little shot of whiskey. I mean, the advisors are much more confident when it came from a tech recommendation. Now, for a customer purchasing, it's great to hear about it 10 months in advance. Here's what's coming up. But I'll take it when an advisor says, hey, the guy's due for 60,000 mile maintenance. Recommend it to him. So I do a lot of tech upsell training. So it's not just the product demos. I'll get him into a conference room with a bunch of pizza, and we'll talk for 35 minutes on the importance of the program. Here's some very simple ways to make 2 or 3 hours of labor recommendations with 60 seconds of investigation. So if you're going to skip the inspection because you're a jerk, that's fine. But at least take 60 seconds and recommend the maintenance.
That's I think that is a point that we don't really hear a lot, in our traditional training and stuff like that at BG. We got to train advisors. We have to push them to sell at the time of write-up, right? That's our biggest area opportunity and easiest pathway forward. But it's also the most difficult sales situation that advisor is going to be in. Springing this recommendation on a customer who's not expecting it, And there's ways around that. There's ways of prepping the customer for those things ahead of time. But you're right, that the technician's recommendation inspires so much more confidence in the advisor, right? It's not just him saying, hey, you need this. My trained technician is recommending this. So for you, tech training is not just confined to, here's how to use a trans machine. Oh, here's how to hook up to that new vehicle that came out.
Yeah.
So you're actually spending some time talking with the techs on strategy about how to drive their dollars per RO and hours per RO and stuff like that.
Yeah, techs have to be bought into the program. They have to believe in the service, and they have to see the dollar signs. They have to be able to know, hey, this is going to make me a whole bunch of money. So sometimes you have to connect all the dots for a technician and make sure, help them see the big picture of what BG can help do for them, for their paychecks, and also for the customer. So if you can get technicians bought in, like you said, Mike, it adds it makes it so much easier for the service advisors to sell. But the flip side of that is if the technicians aren't bought in, they can derail a program very quickly.
100%. Yeah.
Because if a technician doesn't want to do a service, the advisor's not going to sell it.
Which these interactions too, some of the meetings, a lot of that comes to light too, though. When you're having a conversation about when you recommend different services, inevitably one of the techs will say something like, "Well, I can't do a trans service on this; it takes too long to do," and it opens the door for some more great conversation to overcome some obstacles and to get them bought in, because you'll uncover a lot of that.
Helps you identify the squeaky wheel.
Yeah. And I try to open it up anyways. Just we'll follow up typically with dashboard, make sure up to speed in some of the new tech tips, and I'll try to post them on the tech bulletin board. Here's a new one that came out for GMs. But you always have a tech though that'll say, "Yeah, we can't do a fuel service on this. Do you have any tips?" And I'm glad you asked.
I think the biggest objection from a technician is they feel like they have to follow factory recommended intervals, and that's a great conversation to be able to have with technicians, because with our lifetime protection plan, we can give them great reasons why BG makes sense and why we don't have to wait till 150,000 miles to do a coolant service. But having that conversation can be a game changer with technicians. If you can give them a good value proposition for why it's okay to branch outside, General Motors recommendations, they have that light bulb moment, and going forward they'll start recommending stuff. So
he wasn't going to listen to this, is he? So, well, he had a really good idea.
He probably doesn't know how to download.
I don't want his head to get too big. But one of the points he made, though, he said, "Mike, if you got a shop that's pretty rigid about following factory maintenance, they probably suck at selling maintenance, and that's their excuse to not sell it." He said, "Man, take that low-hanging fruit." He said, "If they sell just the factory maintenance, they'll probably quadruple their maintenance sales. If that's what they're locked in on, encourage it. Great. We might talk about some ways to expand it down the road, but I think you're making a great. Let's catch the factory maintenance. Let's focus on that." He said, the maintenance, and I've seen a lot of that.
Yeah, if a technician says, "Oh, I only believe in following the factory maintenance guidelines," okay,
great, do it.
So you're recommending a coolant service every 150,000 miles?
Yeah, or every 7 years or 5 years or whatever it is.
Right.
Which you'll probably find they're not. I mean, when you look at a shop like that, you'll find, yeah, you guys put out 4 coolant flushes last month. There wasn't a single vehicle that you saw that was older than 5 years. You sure? You sure we're catching all of them? So, I mean, don't be quite that condescending, but it's an easy case to make, though.
Wait. You said don't be condescending?
That's what Trigger Mike says, yes. Don't be condescending.
I'm going to have to change my whole strategy now.
Yeah. This is some
you
life
don't have
coaching.
quite the bedside manner that Mike has, so.
I mean,
neither do I, for that matter.
I'm not sure I've got that bedside manner. It sounds creepy. But we drive white vans, though.
Truck bed. So, I think that all of this stuff is a moot point if your relationship with the shop is just to walk in, talk to 2 techs, and say, "Hey, is everything working all right? Good? All right, great. You got any stickers you want to turn in or chips or whatever? No? All right, see you next month." It really requires you to spend the time to really embed yourself in the shop.
Yeah.
Because the shop your program is not going to grow if the shop is resistant to it. You're right, too. I think the other point there is, we have a lot of shops that would sell a lot more BG if they would just follow factory recommendations on maintenance.
Yeah, that's a great launching point. Let's just catch those to start.
Now, Caleb, you kind of, when you were kind of going down the list talking about, all of the factors going into addressing a program that's not working, you mentioned incentive programs. And that's one thing I can definitely say for Caleb. He's creative with incentive programs. He comes up with a lot of cool ideas about how to get people excited about selling BG. So, I don't know, what's an ideal incentive program look like to you? Like, if you're starting from scratch, what would you propose to a store?
That's a good question. One thing I'd say about incentives is they work. People are motivated by money, and it's funny. I've had a lot of experiences over the years where people don't believe in selling maintenance, and I don't believe in that. And all of a sudden, you dangle a little carrot in front of them, and that principle just goes right out. Principle goes right out the window. But yeah, an ideal incentive program. I think you really have to stop and look at your specific customer and ask what's going to be a good fit. There's lots of different factors and things that, but I've had a lot of success with tiered programs. Where you build. Ideally, the more money you can build into a service, the better off you're going to be. So if you build $10 into the program, and you put maybe 2 or 3 different tiers. If you sell X amount of services, you get $5 a service. But if you get to the next level, then you'd get $7. And if you get to the top level, you'd get the full $10 per service. So I've had a lot of success with tiered programs, and it takes a little bit of work to manage. It takes you got to be able to get it set up. You got to be able to. Anything that doesn't get paid out has to get rebated back to the dealership. So there's a lot of work involved with it, but it definitely pays off because
it works.
Especially when advisor A sees his buddy, get to the top $10 per service level, and I've had advisors get $1,500 checks and $2,000 checks for a month in sales, and all of a sudden that gets your attention. When you're taking your BG money and you're filling your gas tank, and the guy next to you is making his house payment with it.
That's a good incentive.
Yeah.
Interesting. So the trade-off with some of these, if you're going to get creative with incentive programs, or really, anything inside the store, is probably going to require you as a rep to be more involved with the program than you might be otherwise.
Yeah, and you got to be careful with these incentive programs because you can't get tunnel visioned and just be selfish. You have to remember, first of all, you've got to be there to help the dealership be profitable and make money. And there are more things that need to be sold than just BG. So if you just have to promote it the right way, and you have to make sure that you're doing it in the dealership's best interest. So
I think that's the key, because I think that, if I'm, there's a lot of guys across the country that are maybe max paying out $1 or $2 per service. They might hear $10 a service and think, "Wow, that's unbelievable, outrageous, wrong." It's really comes down to what's sustainable and makes sense for a customer, right?
I think you have to ask yourself, okay, what's it going to take to motivate this particular shop? How are they paid? What other incentives are out there? And that can even change from market to market. The reason I moved I've got a lot of dealerships that have $5 and $10 incentive programs. And the reason I do that is because they're making $20 for selling a set of tires as a spiff from their dealership. So if I dangle $2 or $3 in front of them to sell a trans flush when they can sell a set of tires and make 20, they're probably not going to sell a transmission service.
Right. Ideally, in a perfect world, they sell it all, but realistically,
people chase their pay plans, and so it just has to make sense.
Well, you got to know your advisors too. You don't want to put in a monster $10 spiff without a tier or something, and they're like, "Wow, I can sell the same amount of BG and make way more money." And I've seen that before too. It happened at one of my stores in Ann Arbor when they swapped over. So it was just they got comfortable, like, "Wow, I'm maintaining and I'm killing it." So,
yep.
Yeah, I like Caleb's idea, and I've implemented. I sold that from you and a couple dealers, and just that tiered spiff program. It works out really well. But make them reach for it though.
Yeah, and be creative. Every dealership's different. There's no cookie cutter approach, and so you have to. It's all dependent on the specifics of that dealership, the relationships you have in there.
But I even think just money too. I mean, I one of my dealers, I threw a big carrot out for him. I said, if we hit it, we'll go karting. And I rented a trackside room and had a pizza catered in, an open bar, and boy, if you've ever gone go karting with a few beers in you, I mean, I wouldn't know what it's like.
Driving with Caleb, right?
Yes. Well, I'll tell you, the shop hit it. I mean, I was getting calls twice a week. Mike, where are we at? Can you stop in and get numbers again and see where we're at? I mean, they were.
Boy, they got excited about
Oh, they
go-karts.
monitor it closely. And yeah, I mean, the first day, I was getting texts on the weekends from the service manager. Hey, Mike, any word on numbers and where we at? And but they were so bought in, though.
What's next? Laser tag?
That sounds terrible.
You don't have to be sarcastic with him.
Hey, whatever works, man.
Yeah, but it wasn't money. It was a big goal they were aiming for, and we had a blast. And not to mention, once they hit it and we went out, we had so much fun hanging out. I mean, I got to know the guys on a much more personal level. I mean, there was competition. We were yelling at each other, and I mean, it was good.
It worked in like several different ways.
Yeah, I mean, our guard was let down, and I mean, that was good relationship building too.
Yeah, I mean, you probably for all intents and purposes, you're a part of the team at that store now.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to describe it. Yep.
So that's kind of another great point. You guys do a lot of promotions and contests and things like that to get the blood flowing. How much value is there in just throwing some cool things at an advisor here and there?
I think the biggest value in it is in any promotion is you want to push them to do something that they don't know they can do or they haven't done before, because then that becomes the new benchmark, the new baseline. If you just run a promotion and it doesn't, you have to have an end goal in
Double
mind.
spiff on fuel this month.
Yeah, that's probably not going to get you anything. So, but if you can sit down with management and come up with a cool promotion with a goal in mind, hey, we want to get these guys to this particular service target or something like that. Then when they hit it, you can turn around and have that conversation of, hey, great job, guys. Man, let's do it again this month. And you can keep it going,
You've kind of established a new normal. I like what you said, too. Kind of get them to reach for something they didn't think was possible. That's a great way to frame it.
Yeah, like what's the point of doing a promotion or a contest or something is to try to alter their habits, right? Create new patterns of behavior.
Maybe get them to step outside of a comfort zone that you dangle that little carrot and they're going to do something that they wouldn't normally do.
Follow a new process even. I've done a lot of that too, where I've done just a simple RIM implementation with just a one service. This is the process we follow. We're going to focus on one service, and here's the rewards you get if you hit the target. But just try to get them to pursue a minor tweak in what they do and follow a new process. I've had some real good success with that too.
Tie incentives to training is a great thing too. If you go in and you train on MOA, man, put an incentive on MOA immediately when you leave, because after I'm done with my training, I want people to take action. So if you pair those two things together, it can be a great combination.
And follow up immediately too. And that's from Andy. I mean, that was his coaching at the last zone meeting. When you train, follow up immediately after the training, and that was some great advice.
That's big, yeah.
I mean,
yeah, so like if you're running a month-long promotion, you're not just, here you go, guys, this is what we're going to shoot for, see you in a month. Like, how often are you checking in with that store?
All the time. I mean, you have to be. You've got to find out. And sometimes, hey, it's not always realistic to be in the same location, 3 days in a row. But it can be as simple as an email to the entire advisor and management team, or maybe it's even calling, texting them, or
do a lot of group texts with my advisors,
making a phone call. Hey, did you hit your target yesterday? Merle would say, break it down to the ridiculous for them. You want to give them little goals and stuff to hit each day, so then you can ask them, you can follow up with it. Hey, are you on track? And that always works very well. Especially if they know you're going to be calling them, that gives them a lot of extra motivation to make sure they hit that target.
Right.
I've been guilty of the alternative too, where I didn't follow up, and a couple weeks later or a month later, hey, how'd you do in the contest? Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that. And that's the alternative of that if you don't stay consistent with it and keep in front of them.
To tattle on myself a little bit here, I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. I've been in the store a lot, but a couple of the advisors, I just haven't done the best job of keeping in front of them consistently. Like I said, I'm there twice a week, but I haven't constantly reminded them. Like, hey, where you at? How you doing on the contest? Are you gonna hit the goal? And consequently, like, I think I've lost some momentum on it. So, kind of in closing here, what advice would you guys give maybe not somebody who's brand new, but somebody who's got a year or two under their belt, and they started out doing the very basic things. Like, what do you think is a good thing for a guy in that situation to focus on?
One thing that I've been very consistent with the last couple of years, which I've been doing this for almost 15, so it's embarrassing that it's taken me so long to really get consistent with it. And particularly when Merle's preached it for so long. But number one is my weekly map, which I have every account listed, every dollar amount that I expect to sell that I need to sell that account. But then I have a daily agenda for every single customer. So when I walk in, these are my 2 or 3 agenda items that I want to accomplish. I mean, I don't go in there wearing it on my sleeve, but I've got an ulterior motive. Every time I go to that account, this is what I want to accomplish so that I can expect increased sales next time I come in. Whether it's I want to get with the used car manager and get PVP or MOA in the used cars, whether it's an incentive, it's a training I want to set up. But what's my agenda? What's going to be the money-making thing that I accomplish when I walk in there? I got to be very deliberate about that. And since I've had logistics support, it's very transparent if you're not working. And before I was doing rings and spiffs and product on the shelf, and I was working. I was selling BG because I was putting cans on shelves and cashing out tokens. But now that that's taken away, I mean, I feel very exposed. Am I making a difference in my account? Am I growing it? Or am I just the good-natured guy, high-fiving, how's the weekend? But now when I walk in, I mean, I've got to be very intentional to grow the business.
So when do you put together that plan? When do you assess those agenda items and set them? Is it in the van 5 minutes before you walk into the store?
No, so I'll do the weekly map Sunday afternoon, or I'll get to the warehouse early Monday and I'll get my weekly map laid out. And the agenda item is the night before or right in the morning before I work out, or right after. But it's always in the morning.
Wait,
I'm always very
you
deliberate.
work out?
You don't work out.
You can't
No
tell
way.
it. So,
Are you kidding?
So that was hurtful. So
I thought your shirt just had extra tight sleeves.
I thought that was a small.
So one thing I'm asked a lot, and I guess you guys can't see it, of course, in the podcast, but I did get this way without steroids. So I just want to go on record saying this was steroid free. This is all natural.
Me too.
So score for
I
both
guess
of
we're
us.
all the same.
So yeah, so I do
That's
it
what I like.
long before I get out in my van, get out in the field though. I mean, it is, and I'm always updating my agenda items. I've got I've got the item, then I've also got what's the follow-up, what was the result of that, and so you guys are the worst. So I'm always tracking what I've accomplished. Did I have the result I expected? But I'm always making notes and updating, and I've got a master file for every single one of my dealerships. Here's what I want to accomplish. I'm always changing, correcting, adding, subtracting. But anyway, I mean, I've got like a shop profile for all of my accounts. Here's what I want to
Shop
accomplish.
profile for all your accounts. I think that's huge. That's instantly if you're listening to this and you don't have something like that, do it now. Not like, in December I'll have some time, to sit down and really look at this. Like, do it immediately. So what you're saying is, be prepared, be organized, and be deliberate about your interactions with your customers.
Always have an objective, yes. Always have a target in the account that you want to get accomplished to grow business. I mean, imagine on the bottom of all my daily sheets it says, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? And so, I mean, what's the perfect scenario look like? And always strive for whatever that ideal is. What's the biggest objective that would grow this account? I mean, just put down some of the out-of-the-box stuff too. But yeah, that's right. Be deliberate, be intentional. Don't go in just expecting to come across some nugget go in there with a plan.
100%. Do you have anything valuable you want to throw in the hat?
It's got some workout tips for us, I'm sure.
I have a few sarcastic things I was thinking about saying, but
You keep that to yourself.
Say that would not fit well in this conversation.
obviously. Just to expand a little bit on what Mike was saying, I think goal setting is huge for your own business, for your accounts, but for any rep, no matter where you're at, I think just never being satisfied and knowing that whatever goals you set, you can get them, you can achieve them if you want it bad enough. Because growing in this business doesn't happen by accident. Mike talked a lot about being intentional. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of planning. But if you want it, it's there. So to me, that's the biggest thing, is just if you want it bad enough, if you're willing to do what it takes, then man, you can just keep growing. The opportunity, nobody's got an ideal situation. There's always excuses. There's always things that we can point at and say, man, I can't because of this or because of that, or I suck at this part of the business. Casey, you know me. I still probably couldn't hardly change oil on a car if I had to.
Well, I'm in the same
I'm not
boat.
the most mechanical guy in the world, but it doesn't matter. You can be successful in this business if you want to be. And I think the opportunities that we have as BG reps in these market conditions, with all of the new things, the new tools, the new products that BG gives us, there's no excuse for any of us not to keep growing.
One thing I'm going to add too, just working with Caleb for so many years, but just have someone that you kind of have a wingman or a teammate that you brainstorm with, bounce ideas off with, and you said it too, kind of shared successes and losses and frustrations and things you're excited about. But that's a big deal, though. I mean, it is just bouncing ideas off each other, and that's been a big part of my growth.
Did you learn that from Waldo the Wingman?
What he had I'm not going to say his quote. No,
He still has his coin in his pocket.
Who's buying beer tonight, huh? So I will say, Caleb has been a big part of my growth too, though, and that's no sarcasm. I mean, just
Can you say that one more time?
I will not. So just lots of great brainstorming ideas, and I appreciate it, kind of having that sounding board, and I've learned a lot from you too. I mean, you approach the business very, very differently from the way I approach it, and it's neat to see your perspective on it. There's a lot that I take away from it. What you do doesn't all fit because you've got different strengths, but it's neat to take away a lot of the things that you're good at and apply them to my business. And
that is
plagiarizing.
That is a big deal. I mean, with all of us, we all work as a team, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses. Man, plagiarize, steal ideas from your coworkers, bounce ideas off each other, find out what's working, and try it.
And make sure that your wingman is somebody who's going where you want to go.
Yeah, that's a good point.
If your wingman is the guy that's got something negative to say at the end of every sales meeting, or I'm not jumping on board with this promotion because of X, Y, and Z, or I don't make any money on this, so I'm not selling it.
Yeah, we've all seen that guy too. Yes,
those guys don't last.
Yep.
So you want to put hitch your wagon to somebody who's positive and who's moving forward.
That's a great point. I agree.
Well, guys, thank you for being here, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us,
Thanks,
Casey.
Casey.
What a neat opportunity.
I know we've been really mean to each other, but you two are some of my favorite people in the BG world. So I think there's not a better couple of guys to be one of the first guests on this show.
Wow, thanks.
And
I
it
thought
is-
we had actually been pretty nice to each other, considering.
I've been nothing but cordial this whole time.
Right. Well, we're all trying to be courteous.
And with that,
So thanks for listening. Have a good day. And, man, get out in your territory. Evaluate what you're doing. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you.